Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the 2018 ASUA Administrative Vice Presidential Debate. This is a partnership between the Associated Students of the University of Arizona and the Arizona Student Media. My name is Marlon Freeman, and I serve as the ASUA Elections Commissioner. Tonight's debate will follow these specific rules. Each candidate will initially have 4 minutes to introduce themselves and speak about their platforms. Please give applause after both candidates have discussed their platforms. After that portion, our panelists will begin questioning. When a question is directed to both candidates, we'll be alternating who speaks first. The first candidate will have 1 minute and 30 seconds to answer the question. The second candidate will have 1 minute to rebuttal the statement. Then our initial speaking candidate will have 30 seconds to reply. If a candidate is asked a question that pertains to them only, then they will have 1 minute and 30 seconds to reply. I will be asking questions on behalf of the UA Cultural and Resource Centers. And before we begin, I will be introducing our panelists tonight. We have our ASUA Pride Alliance co-director, Sabrina Etcheverry. And then, clap. We have our Students for Sustainability co-director, Courtney Pijanowski. We have our Executive Director of Fling, Stewart. We have our ASUA Administrative Chief of Staff, Brie Alford. And lastly, we have our ASUA Administrative Vice President, Lorenzo Johnson. Cool, and then we'll have our two panelists tonight. We have on the opposite podium, Kate Rosenstengel. And then on the podium I am standing at, we'll have Sean McCarthy.
Welcome, candidates. Thank you, Marlon. And
okay, yeah, never mind. I'm so sorry. I totally forgot. Thank you. Before our audience came in, we flipped a coin, and Kate will be initiating our debate. So, Kate, you have 4 minutes.
Thank you. So good evening, everyone, and thank you all so much for being here tonight. My name is Kate Rosenstengel. I'm currently a sophomore here at the U of A. I'm in the Honors College, and I'm double majoring in PPL, which is Philosophy, Politics, Economics, and Law, and Global Studies with a minor in Spanish. So I came to the University of Arizona from a small town in southern Illinois, outside of St. Louis, without knowing anybody. And in my time at the University of Arizona, it's given me more than I ever could have imagined that it would have given me. And so because of that, I like to stay involved, and I like to see as much of the University of Arizona as I can. So I'm a proud member of SMORE Sophomore Honorary, I'm a member of Greek Life as a member of Alpha Chi Omega, and I give campus tours as a member of Arizona Ambassadors. But above all those things, ASUA has given me more than any other organization. I started out my freshman year in the administrative branch as a member of the Freshman Class Council. And then at the end of that year, I was lucky enough to be elected to the Student Body Senate. And as a senator, it's been an amazing experience for me, very transformative. And I've had an opportunity to sit on a lot of boards, to go to a lot of events, and to pursue my own platforms. And it really helped me to become more passionate about ASUA. Also, this past semester, I was lucky enough to sit as the Senate representative to the administrative branch. So I had opportunities to go to some directors' councils to see what those look like and to meet directors. And that's how I developed a lot of my platforms and really why I decided that I wanted to run for this position. So before I go into my specific platforms, I want to talk about some overarching ideas that I wanted to keep in mind when I came up with my platforms. One, I thought it was really important to have platforms that impact the entire administrative branch without encroaching on any of the singular programs or services. And second, I really wanted to make sure they were feasible. I've been in student government for a really long time. I was in it all through high school and then all through my college career. And I know it's really easy to say you're going to do things, but I really want to be a leader that will actually do those things. And so I firmly believe that my platforms are both positive and will impact the administrative branch, but also that I can get them done. And so with that, my first platform is that I want to improve the diversity in the administrative branch. And I really mean this in two ways. So first, I think a lot of times ASUA is known for the same people applying for the same positions. And I'd really like to see some new faces and some new perspectives applying for those directorships. And so I think by reaching out to places that may not always be represented in ASUA, like cultural centers or all different types of Greek life, and different clubs to let them know what positions are available, that they would apply for those positions, and we could improve it that way. But also I think people that have roles of power in ASUA should have a working understanding of what it is to work in a dynamic work environment with people from different cultures and with different identities. And my second platform is that I want to initiate a programs fair. So a couple times a semester we have club fairs, and it's a really good opportunity for clubs to sit on the mall, talk to people, let them know what they do, and recruit new members. So I think if we had all 13 programs and services table probably like once a semester, it could really help show the community what they do, help people to get involved, and also show that they're associated with ASUA. And then my last platform is that I want to increase the communication and collaboration between the different programs and services. So each program is led by people who are so talented and so passionate about what they're doing. And also, a lot of those programs are very intersectional in the ideas that they encompass. So I think if I were AVP, I would want to foster conversations between the different leaders of those programs to work together to broaden the scope and make the administrative branch affect more people. So thank you all so much. I really look forward to your questions.
Thank you. And now we'll have Sean McCarthy.
Hi, everybody. I'm Sean McCarthy. Wow, that's loud. I'm Sean McCarthy. I'm a sophomore right now as well, double majoring in law and political science. And basically what started me on my journey right now that I'm trying to accomplish is last year when I was in freshman class council, we have the opportunity to shadow different parts of the office. And I was fortunate enough to get to shadow the last administrative vice president, Tatum Hammond. And through her, I started learning about the 13 programs and services, got to see Campus Pantry added as a program, and then, I got to learn a lot while I was there. And so at the end of the year, I decided I wanted to apply to be the Administrative Vice President's Deputy Chief of Staff this year, and I was lucky enough to get that position. So this year I've been working as the Deputy Chief of Staff under Administrative Vice President Lorenzo Johnson, so that's been really humbling. I've had the opportunity to see all the programs and services and what they're doing this year, and that's been great. So kind of to jump into my platforms from there, working in the administrative branch has helped me develop what I want to do in ASUA. So basically I can start with my UA Campus Pantry program, platform that I'm trying to develop a new source of funding for them. Over the time that they've been a program for the past year, they have been growing exponentially. They're growing at a rapid rate, and it's almost to the point where they are barely, sustaining themselves. They're able to keep doing distributions where students are getting food, but it's also limited to the items they can get and things like that. So, they did just get a big grant from Sean Miller, the head basketball coach here at the UA. Go Cats. But other than that, they do need a steady source of funding to where they can get something that's, constant and not just solely based on donations. So what I want to do with that is there's a system that is precedented at the University of Texas, and basically what they have is where you can get a meal in the student union, any part of the student union, and you can donate the rest of the dollar that's left on your bill to Campus Pantry, and that's where I want that money to go to. They have their own fund there. We can do something like that, but it's a little bit on the act of the individual student, but in the grand scheme of things, it does a lot, and that definitely gives them something that we'd like to see. I also want to create a strategic plan for initiative for ASUA, and what I want to do with that is we have a vision right now that's even up on the website that you can see, but we don't have a mission statement. And what I want to do with a mission statement is focus and orient the goals of the 13 programs and services. And with that, I want to get monthly forums going where we can get students to come out and voice their opinions. A lot of people don't want to contact a senator, don't know who their senators are, don't know that that's the person they have to contact. So I want to create the opportunity for students to come talk to us and tell us what they want and what they need out of these programs and services. And on top of that, I want to create that mission statement according to what they tell us that is a fluid mission statement. I want it to be ever-changing. I want us to accomplish goals so we can create new ones. And I want to orient the goals of these 13 programs and services towards something, theme the month, theme the semester, get them all collaborating to do something big. So on top of that, I'm an RA right now in Hopi Graham Greenlee, specifically Hopi, and I want to create a position between RHA and ASUA to where we have a liaison to where it's easier for programs to get into the dorms. There's a stigma right now that no one in ASUA can work with Res Life because it's impossible to get in. We can't flyer in there. we can't have programs too close. You can't even stand outside, you know. So we definitely want to, one thing I want to do with that is I've been on the executive search committee for the next director of Res Life. And after voicing that opinion to these new candidates, they're all really interested, piqued their interest. Even the director of Res Ed scheduled a meeting with me to talk about this, and they all want to support that. So that's something I definitely want to do. And the last two, I want to create a Next Steps program for the U of A where students learn about the 13 programs and services before they come to the U of A, so they know what they can use. And the last one is create a diversion program for parking and transportation services as well as DINA students using community service hours to either drop ticket fees that people can't afford or get people off deferred eviction from kicking them out of the dorms. So,
Thank you. And round of applause for our first two candidates, or for our two candidates. Our first question will come from our administrative vice president.
Awesome. Thank you for both speaking about your platforms. All right, I'll dive specifically into the details of the position. So a large portion of the AVP's responsibilities centers around the requisition process. How will you ensure that directors are educated on this and stick to this process throughout their term? This is for both of them.
Yeah, so Sean, you will go first.
cool. So I think definitely the beginning of the year, maybe during even a director's council, we always have that opportunity to get all the directors together right then and there. Give them a lesson on it, you know, right then and there. From that, you know, you start off the year with teaching them how to do it, what they need, what the exact process of doing it. You know, teach them the ins and outs, tell them what we need, what we can't have on there, and let them know, you know, how to do this. I think that'd be great. You can definitely focus one of your first meetings on that, and throughout the year, you probably won't have to worry about it again. But, you know, if they do mess up again, you know, just education, you know, remind your directors what's going on and keep going back. You know, if they do mess up, just during your one-on-ones with them, you know, tell them, hey, this can't be on your rec form. I saw you did this, and we kind of need this fixed, and tell them why, you know. So that way, if they do it again next time, they're like, oh, I can't do that because this, and this. So definitely education, like a whole meeting. You can get all of them in one sitting if you do it during a director's council, and then keeping that education going on corrections during your one-on-ones or something like that if they do end up messing one of those up. So,
Thank you, Kate.
Great, thank you. So I definitely think like at the very beginning, at the start of the year, education about what the requisition process looks like. As a senator, I had the opportunity to become acquainted with the requisition process, and the forms can be confusing. There's a lot of stuff to fill out that you may not otherwise know what it means or what you're supposed to put there. So I think at the very beginning, going through that and letting them know, but also as directors go through this process and whenever they plan events that they need to fill out a requisition form or they need to get funds for, to like sit down with them and go through it. And if there's something that I don't know, to always utilize the treasurer or people that are higher than me to make sure that that's always done correctly. And also just not making anyone feel insecure about if they don't know how to do the requisition process. Because I think just really having that open communication and getting it done correctly as opposed to making a director try to figure it out on their own is the most important part.
Thank you. And Sean, you have an opportunity to reply.
oh yeah, just in addition, I've had to fill out Recs as an RA and an ASUA, so I think getting an example, you know, putting that in a Google Drive or something like that to where directors can always refer to that I'd use it every time when I'm an RA. You know, I have one that I keep that I filled out, and you know, let them review that every time they need it. So.
Thank you. And our next question.
Hi, everyone. All right, this question is for both of you. How will you ensure directors' accountability, and how will you address any issues that may arise if a director is not adequately working to improve their specific program?
And Kate, you will go first.
Great. So I think whenever it comes to ensuring accountability, that will happen in those one-on-ones. Having each director come up with goals, what they want to accomplish for the year, and then having them chunk those goals up into attainable pieces that they could do throughout the year, and then looking at whether or not those are happening. And if they're not happening, sitting down with directors and seeing what the roadblocks are, and how we can fix them. I don't think a lack of apathy, I don't think apathy is an issue in the administrative branch. I think everyone's really passionate and they want to achieve their goals, and I think in many ways it's just giving them the tools and the resources to accomplish those goals. And was there a second part to that question, or was that? No, okay, perfect.
Thank you. Sean.
Yeah, so I mean, we definitely see this a lot. Directors do end up slacking off at any point during the year. You don't want to go to your office hours. You don't want to spend the time on certain objectives that are set by you know, some of them don't even show up for directors' councils every once in a while. So I think definitely just maintaining accountability during one-on-ones, you know, reminding them, hey, I'm noticing this, you know, and not only doing it in a way that, you know, you don't want to be attacking them or else they're not going to want to come again, but definitely do it to where you're providing a solution with them. You're developing them. You're developing that with them. You know, goal setting helps. I'm personally not the biggest fan of it. It gets annoying, but you know, it does work. So you know, sit down with them, set a goal. How are you going to fix this? How are we going to fix this? What do you need from me? And tell them, you know, your expectations. This is what I need from you. And definitely just having that good working relationship is definitely what I would hope to have. Give them that plan to fix it, and then honestly, if you give them those chances and it continues, and removal from the position, you know, you can hire another director. But if someone's not doing their job and you can't help them fix it, even though you've given them the devices to do so, you need to be that person. So,
Thank you, and Kate, you have a chance to reply.
Yeah, and I definitely think another part to this is just hiring directors that you know will be accountable, looking into people that are responsible, that are passionate, that have these goals. And when it comes to then furthermore office hours, things like that, whenever people have things to work on, when there are things that they're excited to be working on, they're going to go to those office hours and they're going to accomplish them. But yeah, of course, if anything is in the way, always being honest and yeah, telling the directors what they need to get done.
Thank you. And our next question.
Hi. In what ways could you utilize Spring Fling in connecting ASUA not only with the rest of the campus, but with the Tucson community in general? This is for both of you.
And Sean will go first.
So actually, I think this year there was actually a really good example of that. I don't remember the exact title of it, but it's like they're having almost like 5,000 students that are planning to come to the university on the same weekend of Spring Fling. So I don't know who planned that, but whoever did, that's awesome. That's definitely one way that could start it. Other than that, I think just engaging the community, definitely increasing our advertising from just on the U of A, and definitely, you know, pumping that up. Go out through the community. You know, we have a lot of clubs and resources people that can reach out into the community. They already have those connections, those ties. They constantly work with the community. So definitely reaching out to them, the people that have already established those relationships, to build on that, and then trying to just advertise wherever we can. You know, I think getting as much participation from the university itself is what drags more people in, because the more people here, the more people they know out there, and the more people want to come. So definitely just advertising on that part to get it outside of the U of A, but also engaging everybody that we have on campus already.
Thank you, and Kate.
Great, yeah, so Spring Fling is the largest student-run carnival in the nation. And that's so amazing that the University of Arizona is home to that. I know I'm a campus tour guide. Like I said, we talk about that a lot on our tours. It's something that we're really proud of. And so I think with Spring Fling, its reputation kind of precedes it. People in the Tucson community know that Spring Fling's going on, but of course I always think that like our PR and our marketing teams can help Spring Fling to get that more out into the community. I know you guys pair with a lot of local businesses, and having them sort of aid you in that process of going out and getting more people to come. But more than anything, like, I don't know, people are very passionate about Spring Fling, and I think it's a wonderful thing we have here.
And Sean, you have an opportunity to reply.
Okay, good.
Okay, and we can move on to the next question.
So this is for both of you. How do you envision a more sustainable campus?
And Kate will go first.
Great, yeah, so I think sustainability should be at the forefront of all of our conversations, particularly with administration when we're looking at how to improve our community, how to improve our school. Like, I know one thing Students for Sustainability, I believe you're working on this year, and I anticipate you'll be working on the future, is trying to get solar panels, trying to be a more sustainable campus as a whole. I know ASU is beating us at that, and that's something that's just completely not acceptable. So I think when it comes to, if I were lucky enough to be the administrative vice president, is that when having those conversations with administrators, just honestly, when having those conversations with students, with anyone, to make sure that we know sustainability should be at the forefront of our thoughts, and it should be something that we advocate for constantly.
Thank you, Sean.
So yeah, funny story about sustainability. During my RA interviews last year, they asked me if I knew about any sustainability initiatives on campus, and honestly, I blanked in the middle of it, and I was kind of unaware, so I straight up said I don't know. Didn't think I was going to get hired for that. Here I am today. But So I think definitely just raising awareness is definitely one thing. And, that's the typical answer nobody likes, awareness. But I think it's true. One of my platforms is creating a liaison position in Res Life to where someone in ASUA is there in Res Life as well. And I think if we had the programs that you guys put on, as well as the facts that you guys give out, the statistics that you guys have, and get that into the dorms through that liaison, that's something that we can do. And that's something that they've supported. I've talked to them a little bit about that already. So I think doing that. And other than that, just partnering with other programs and services, create new events, new ideas that people want to come to that engages more people. You can't keep targeting the same people. And so hopefully if you do that collaboration like with that mission statement, we can create something to where we get that more out there.
Thank you, and Kate, you have a chance to reply. Okay, and our next question.
Okay. So this is for both of you. How do your platforms specifically aid LGBTQ plus students on campus, especially QTPOC or queer and trans people of color, and our students on campus?
Sean, you will go first.
So, I mean, I'd say my second platform, my strategic planning initiative, is definitely one thing where we can get more, what's the word I'm looking for? We can have those students voice their opinions more. We can't always know what their expectations are, what we can do for them. And I think that's one of the best things that we can do right now. Being student advocates is giving them that opportunity to come voice their opinions, their needs, their wants, and make sure that we're representing that. Obviously, just giving them the opportunity to see what they're needing and supporting the cultural centers through everything else. I think getting another thing idea that sponsored or helped me create the idea for my strategic planning thing is allowing people to come together to focus towards a goal. And I think raising LGBTQ awareness, if we had every program and service focus one of their events on that, then it'd be huge. Everybody would be more aware. Everybody would look at it in a different way. So,
Thank you, and Kate.
Great. So, I'm sorry, can you repeat your question? I just want to make sure that I get all
No,
the
you're
parts.
fine. So it was, how do your platforms specifically help LGBTQ plus students, especially queer and trans people of color?
Beautiful, and thank you so much for asking that question. So I think my first platform of improving the diversity that we have in ASUA really relates to this. I think whenever we're hiring directors, it should really be at the forefront of our mind how these people are going to be inclusive in our community. And I also think that shouldn't stop whenever directors are hired. I know we can't make safe zone training mandatory, but I would really love to make it highly encouraged. And even more than that, just creating an atmosphere of support and inclusivity in the administrative branch. So I would definitely love for all people to come forward and tell us what they want changed, but I think first we need to make it a place where they're comfortable to come forward and tell us what they need. To see more people, I don't know, just applying for things. If someone from the LGBTQ plus Resource Center and Pride Alliance does so much amazing programming, and just to continue to support everything that the Pride Alliance does. So, yeah.
Thank you. And our next question will be asked by me and representing our UA Cultural and Resource Centers. And the first question they have is, we currently have Tucson community members and UA Native students leaders working to replace Columbus Day with Indigenous Peoples Day at the university. As ASUA leaders, what are actionable steps that can be taken to support these students and their efforts? And Kate will go first.
Great. So I think even in this day and age, 2018, we're still celebrating Christopher Columbus Day when there are so many people through history that we should be celebrating before we should be celebrating Christopher Columbus. So I would definitely be supporting this movement. And I think when it comes to actionable steps, it comes to talking to the people that can make that happen, talking to administrators or whoever that may be, and just loudly voicing support for this. I know EVP candidate Rain talked about having some sort of event on campus or rally, and I think there's a lot of power in public protesting and making your voices heard on a public scale. And so I think if everyone got together, and I would definitely be very excited to participate in those events, and I think we could really make a difference when it comes to Christopher Columbus Day. Thank you.
Thank you, and Sean.
Hi. So I'm trying to go full circle on my platforms here, but I think, again, during the month of Columbus Day, make that initiative on the strategic planning thing. Make all of the programs and services, tell them this is our goal for the month. We want to raise awareness of, the history of Christopher Columbus and, try to get people to start using Indigenous People Day instead of Christopher Columbus Day. I think challenging the programs and services to do that and show that through their programming would definitely help the most. And that shows that, as ASUA, as the programs and services, as the administrative branch, we're standing in solidarity that we're supporting that. We can also do things like using my RHA liaison idea and hopefully get more programming for that in the dorms. Even get, all of Res Life involved in that. Even if we had that one thing, we could get more even flyering for these events. If we have things to raise awareness on that, we can get those out there to impact more students and to get them involved in the discussion.
All right, thank you. And our next question.
All right. Sean, diving into your platforms, with your strategic plan platform, how do you envision this operating differently than Senate engaging on student issues?
So, like I said, I feel, as a student, I feel like a lot of people don't feel that they're not that they're not welcome enough, but no one goes to their senators. I haven't heard of a lot of students. I've heard a lot of students voicing their opinions, and I've also talked to students, and I've been like, okay, you can go and talk to your senator, and then no one is interested in either putting forth that effort or I honestly can't tackle the issue right there, but I think definitely the things that students have reacted to more is the opportunity to come in. Speak their issues in a public setting where, their voices are, being heard by many. Instead, it's not in that private setting where it's just like, okay, maybe they won't listen to me, which I think may probably be part of the problem, but it's in that area where it's openly viewed, it's openly discussed, and then from there you can challenge people on action. You can call them out right in front of others. So, and you can do that with a senator, but I think you're creating more of an opportunity with an idea like that that's welcoming to students.
Thank you.
All right, and Kate, in Senate, you've seen the issues programs and services have encountered when requesting funding from Senate. How would you recommend to navigate this recurring issue?
Yeah, definitely. And this is a huge issue that I've seen. And quite frankly, the most frustrating thing that is sort of the intimidation or disrespect of programs and services when they come in to get funding. And I think obviously, this is a tough issue to deal with, but I think before anything, it's prepping the programs and services to know what they should expect when it comes to Senate, what kinds of questions they should be able to expect so they're ready to have those like off the cuff, they know the answers to them. But more than anything, it shouldn't be on the programs and services to have to deal with this. I think having conversations with senators to sort of change this culture and make it more approachable for programs and services to come in. But yeah, more than anything, just preparation and being there as well as an advocate for the programs and services, being in Senate and sort of supporting them through that entire journey.
Thank you. And our next question.
Alrighty, my first one is for Kate. We have talked a lot about diversity and inclusion. Wondering what your definition of diversity and inclusion is and how you will ensure this definition is upheld in the hiring process, particularly specific steps you will take to ensure diversity in applicants and diversity in the people chosen for these positions.
Great question. Thank you so much. So first, with my definition of diversity, I think diversity is about being welcoming to people of all backgrounds, whether that be religious, race, gender, sexual identity, etc. So that's my definition. And when it comes to hiring people, I know in the past there's been a question that's like, what does diversity mean to you, and how will you implement that in your program or service? And I'd like to really put stock into the answer of that question. I've sat in on a lot of interviews, and sometimes I think the answers aren't very satisfactory, and if that is the case, and that person, so I would first not want to hire anyone that has an unsatisfactory answer, but if they were, for whatever reason, the only applicant or something like that, the most qualified person, I would want to have a one-on-one conversation with them about what diversity should look like, and honestly, that's something that you could do with every director what diversity should look like in their program. I'd also like to sort of expand the idea of diversity to people of ability. So whenever I would also like, particularly with things like Spring Fling Family Weekend, to talk about what it looks like to include people that may have physical disabilities in their events. And then when it comes to, I'm sorry, what was the last part of the question?
Oh, I think you're good with it. I was just asking specific initiatives.
Oh, yes. Okay, so that's how I would go for it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Alrighty, and then my question for Sean, it also has the same theme of diversity and inclusion. Your platform regarding the ASUA strategic plan, how will you market this platform to increase accessibility and ensure students know that it exists, since it is going to be a new thing on campus?
Right. I think getting it on the newsletter that gets sent out to students is one, but a lot of students don't read that at the same time, so you may not get as much from that. Definitely using, if I were to get the RHA liaison in there, target the dorms. A lot of students in the dorms want their voice to be heard and want to attend events on campus, so definitely getting flyering up there, letting Res Live know, even them, if you partner with campus like other campus departments and let them know that this is going on, hopefully help and let send on their listservs themselves. If you're getting multiple emails sent to all the students on this one thing, it's definitely going to increase attendance right there. And then, get your ASUA, the ASUA I work in, get them to all support it, reach the students that they're talking about, hit up the EVP, get all the clubs involved, they all have opinions that they want heard, and voices on there. And definitely just, getting as much outreach as you can, hitting up the programs and services and telling them, this is the goal of the month, we want to increase attendance in this and let all your people know. And then from there, it just spreads, So advertising in every place possible. I mean, that's the way I do it.
Thank you. Our next question.
How do you plan to implement your platform so they don't just impact this year, but also future years to come and kind of lay that foundation for the future of
Sean will go first.
Cool. I think definitely in incorporating the materials, your expectations, your vision, your ideas on your programs, your platforms that you created, and putting that into your transition. Definitely making sure it's a value of the next AVP, hopefully. And they could just decide to scrap your idea. But hopefully, with my platforms, the things I hope to do is make change and engage as many students as possible. And I think, if I have the attendance that, I'm hoping for in these strategic planning initiatives, if I'm having people utilizing this Dean of Students program where people are using community service hours instead of, getting kicked out of the dorms, I think if it's something impactful and it's something that's, helping a lot of students, for the most part, people are going to be passionate about it. And hopefully, if they're not in that transition, hopefully I can instill that in them. But honestly, I feel like the programs I went for big change. I want things that are going to be noticed, and I think to take away something like that after it's already been made into a thing is definitely something that's going to impact the student body. They're going to notice that it's gone, and that's what I went for. I went for things that are actually going to have an impact on the students, and that they'd like, and that they would notice if it weren't there again. So,
thank you.
Yeah, I think if a platform is successful, people are going to want to continue it. And I really think that all three of my platforms are things that could be continued on into future generations of ASUA. So my first platform, it talks about getting new people involved in ASUA. And I think when we're creating those relationships with other organizations or with other places, other people that might want to apply, that's going to continue on. People are going to pass those down. People are going to tell their friends. And that is something that could easily continue on. My second platform of a programs fair, so programs fair used to exist some long time ago, and through the years it got lost in the shuffle. But if that's successful, it's something that could become an annual or an every semester event quite easily. And then my last platform of having better relationships between the programs, once those relationships are established, there's no reason for them to go away. If there are events that are occurring between the programs, inter-program events, then those are things that could become annual. Those are things that could continue on, and I think that's really important and really exciting.
Thank you. And our next question.
Have you heard of the projects that Students for Sustainability does, and if so, which ones interest you most, and how would you like to expand on them for both of you?
And Kate will go first.
Awesome. So, yeah, I have heard of several things Students for Sustainability do. I will admit I have not been to any student sustainability events yet, but I would love to do that in the future. I know some that I've heard of is you do, like, you bike to Safeway, and then you get you get food and groceries to bring back to campus pantry. Am I correct on that? That does occur. Okay, awesome. And so, yeah, so that occurs. I also know you guys go to a lot of national conferences, and so I think that's really awesome. And I'm so sorry. What was the second part of your question?
If so, which ones do you know most about, and how would you like to expand on them?
Oh, awesome. Expansion. So I think with expansion, it just comes to that communication and that support. So, like, whether it be, I know about the, when you go to the conference, you ask for Senate funding. And so definitely being there to support you getting that Senate funding, helping you create budgets that help you to do those programs. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you. And Sean?
I'd have to say the same thing on the events you guys have. The ones I've heard the most about are yoga in the garden, and then your garden project as well. Obviously, you're promoting that with that one thing right there, and then creating a sustainable way to get items to campus pantry. Definitely something we've been talking about as an administrative team. We're planning on coming out to one of those because we haven't yet. But I think to expand those events, definitely one thing I had SFS in my mind when I was creating my strategic planning initiative platform, specifically because I targeted some of the lesser known programs that we have, and I think it's an opportunity to create collaboration between all of our departments, all of our programs that we have right now, and say we pull something big like Spring Fling where thousands of students are involved, or something like freshman class council that we have right now, and get them all involved, get them all out there, and it honestly, it'll spread the word really quick. There's thousands of students that love yoga. I have a team of friends that go like all the time. If we just tell people like, yo, like I'm going to this with all my friends and freshman class council, it spreads the word so fast, and it can increase attendance in your events. And all that does is from the attendance, it'll increase the people that are looking at your program and seeing what you're doing, and then it helps you guys a lot. So,
Thank you. And our next question?
So since you have both been in ASUA for multiple years, during your time in ASUA, how have you seen the effects of power and privilege, and what steps do you plan to take to stop this from continuing?
Sean will go first.
So seeing power and privilege in ASUA, I think definitely one thing I've seen in the at least elections process for things like FCC or other positions, they look at, or specifically that organization at least, they look at targeting this year they look at targeting what people are involved in. They put a CAIO cap on, FCC. They were looking at things like that. And so I think definitely identifying things like that. I haven't seen too much in ASUA itself where power and privilege has been playing too much of a role, other than, I think increasing diversity is probably our best combat to it. But I haven't directly been involved in any problems like that.
And Kate?
Yeah, I definitely think ASUA can have issues with power and privilege. Particularly, I talked about within Senate and Senate versus programs. So I think always supporting those programs and letting people, like, having serious conversations, serious and honest conversations about what power and privilege looks like in our communities. I know a lot of members in ASUA do have power and they do have privilege, and that might not be something that they've come to terms with, and that might not be something that they recognize. And that's a tough thing to come to terms with and to recognize. I also think that increased training, like I know I've been lucky enough to go to a couple different trainings with the Office of Inclusive Excellence and Diversity, and that's really eye-opening, and I think that can help with a culture shift in ASUA. I also think just in general, being open, welcoming people, I don't think it should be intimidating for someone to come talk to their senator or come talk to their representatives. And I think sometimes that is an issue that we have in ASUA. And I think just overall a culture shift is what I would try to foster if I were the AVP.
Thank you. And just due to time, we're going to be shortening the response time to 1 minute. We want to make sure we get through all the questions. And the next question will come again from one of our cultural resource centers. And the question is, what do you think about inclusion and diversity in experiential learning like programs like study. I'm gonna start over. What do you think about inclusion and diversity in experiential learning programs like study abroad and alternative spring break? What do you hope to do to impact marginalized populations participating in experiential learning programs like these? And Kate will go first.
Awesome. So I think the first step to getting people that aren't normally represented in these studying experiences is that they know they're going on. So reaching out to places like cultural centers, maybe reaching out to the Immigrant Student Resource Center, things like that. And if they don't already exist, creating things like scholarship opportunities for these students, these marginalized students, so that they have a, so it's more possible for them to participate.
Thank you. And Sean?
Yeah, I think definitely one of the problems with that is scholarship opportunities. You know, I come from a lower SES background, and I definitely can't. I've looked into, you know, studying abroad. I definitely can't afford it. Even with the scholarships that they offer, you know, it doesn't cover the whole thing. They can come in and tell you, you know, we have plenty of scholarships to cover it all. But you know, when you look into studying abroad, it's actually a really daunting thing, especially financially. That's definitely one of the reasons I haven't and don't plan on studying abroad. So I think, along with creating something like the strategic planning initiative, you know, one of our themes of the month, targeting problems like that, and say, you know, having each measure for that, you know, that goes towards scholarship funding. You know, we can't just say that we're going to have a scholarship initiative without having a plan of action for it, and, you know, creating that opportunity that combats it as a whole as the administrative branch of ASUA.
Thank you.
Awesome. Who's going first? Sean. All right. So Sean, specifically for your platforms, how do you envision working with Campus Pantry and with the program that you said was precedented at UT? How would you work with administrators to facilitate that here on campus?
So I think definitely, you know, collaborating with Campus Pantry, you're working with them all the time already. You know, you are the AVP. So I think definitely just continuing your relationship with them is what's going to help. Keeping them an active role in making that a thing. Definitely pushing the statistics towards administrators. You know, there's 48% of college students alone claim to be food insecure, and here at the university, it's a 29% rate. So that out of 40,000 students, that impacts a large group. And I think giving administrators that idea, telling them that statistic, letting them know this is a problem on our campus where our students don't know where their next meals are coming from, is definitely what's going to drive that. And I think combating the issues that they bring up, as long as you have the support of Campus Pantry right there by your side, you know, you have all the information you need, all the help from them, and then, you know, as long as you're pushing things like that, you can use precedented systems to show them how it works and what is effective.
Thank you.
Awesome. And Kate, in your introductory remarks, you spoke about how your platforms were more goal-oriented than for specific programs or services. So what programs or services do you wish to work closely with next year and improve?
Great. So obviously I want to work with all of the programs and services to hopefully help them achieve their goals. But when it comes to working, Campus Pantry is a big one. They're new, they're still starting out. And a lot of what they need, they definitely need help monetarily by securing a method of funding that they can sustain throughout the years. But they also need volunteer support. They need like just sheer manpower. And I think utilizing things like freshman class council, utilizing volunteer UA to get more people to work in Campus Pantry is definitely one way that I would help to increase that. But yeah, overall I would want to work with all of the programs and services, but pay more attention to each one as they need more help.
Thank you.
Alrighty. Alrighty, Sean, you spoke a bit about your Campus Pantry initiative and with Lorenzo, but I was just wondering the specific logistical steps you envision for accomplishing this initiative.
Mm-hmm.
What steps do you plan on taking to make this happen throughout your term?
Okay. When I had this platform is that, you know, you have to have the approval from Campus Pantry, obviously. So, I did have a discussion with them. I went and said, is this okay? I'm using your program as a platform. Do you guys approve? Would this be something you'd allow me to do? And, they were all for it. They loved that idea. And so definitely getting the approval from them, working with them. On top of that, I think the next steps is, working with the advisors we have in ASUA, because they have a lot of knowledge. We can utilize them all the time. Seeing what their advice is to go about it, but my next target was getting it approved through the student unions. Hitting them hard, and that's probably one of the most daunting challenges we have right now. Is using them, because it's definitely hard to cooperate with them. But I think if we show them the statistics, if we show them this program, if we bring Campus Pantry along with us and show them the turnout, show the student union the turnout at our distributions, use that in collaboration. So,
Thank you.
Lost my place, 1 second. Alrighty, Kate. So Sean has been exposed directly to the AVP position as the Deputy Chief of Staff. You, on the other hand, have been a senator for this past year. How do you believe that this experience will translate to the AVP position, and how does it add value and separate you as a candidate?
Great question. Thank you. So as a senator, I've had the opportunity to run on a platform and to try to accomplish that platform. And I think I've been very successful at getting done what I wanted to get done. And I've created a lot of relationships within ASUA that can help me to make these platforms. But also the administrative branch has always been a part of my ASUA experience. I started in the administrative branch, and then, like I said, this past semester, I was lucky enough to sit in on director's councils to see how it works. So I definitely think that being a senator this past year gives me a unique understanding of what it means to be an elected official, what it means to run on a platform, to accomplish those things. And I don't know, I feel like I've been very successful this past year, and I would like to hopefully continue that and translate that into the administrative branch.
Thank you. And our next question.
This one's for both of you. So collaboration has kind of been something that we've talked about, but could I hear some examples and some specific ideas of ways that we can kind of unify all the programs and services and just really help to support each other more in all of our different initiatives?
And Kate will go first.
Great. So I think one good place to start is having events together. So like I know this past Wednesday, I wasn't able to go, but I really wanted to. Force and Students for Sustainability had a panel on ecofeminism. And that's so cool. A lot of the administrative branch is very social justice oriented, and even those that aren't explicitly social justice oriented do have those undertones of, like, Spring Fling applies to everyone. No matter who you are, you go to Spring Fling and you enjoy Spring Fling. So I think, first of all, working together to have those events and foster those relationships, but also going off that, if I were AVP, I think I would want to challenge each program or service to, if not have an event with another program or service, to at least sit down at some point throughout the semester and chat with one or two other programs and services, see what they do and see how the work that each program or service does impacts each other. And I think that understanding could really benefit everyone involved and help the administrative branch run a lot smoother.
Thank you. And our next question?
Wait,
Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm on autopilot with this timing. Sean, please go.
I'm glad you asked that. It's one of my platforms. I want to create and further collaboration in ASUA, specifically programs and services through that new mission statement. And that's I'm guessing the reason you're asking this is because you've been in the office. You work in programs and services right now. I've done that this entire year. That's what sparked that idea in my head. Programs and services is like a layered cake, and we want a marble cake. Sorry to pull the government thing into there, but that's what we want. And that's definitely my vision for it. I want to see collaboration. I want to see them all working towards one goal. And that's had that. Doesn't necessarily force collaboration, but it definitely does encourage it, and it gives them the idea that working with each other is what's going to help you. And I think instilling that mentality in all of them is what's going to inspire it the most. So.
Thank you. And now our next question.
So to expand on the last question a little bit, how do you envision sustainability specifically being integrated within other ASUA programs?
And Sean will go first.
Yeah, so I think definitely creating like programs like you guys just did with, you know, having the conversations with other programs. Definitely one of my platforms is creating more awareness through an RHA liaison. I think definitely getting. Can you repeat the question one more time? I think I'm getting off track.
How do you envision sustainability being integrated within other ASUA programs?
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, definitely. I told you this when I was developing that platform for the strategic planning initiative. One of my ideas with that was targeting your program and other small programs in ASUA. Seeing that if we have other programs supporting them, pushing their ideas, getting involved, hosting them, doing things like that, programs to instantly build them up in like a couple of programs, a couple of events. You know, just have them sponsor each other basically.
Thank you. Kate.
Well, sustainability impacts every. Makes a lot of sense that it would be able to collaborate with every single one of the programs and services. So whether that be, you know, talking with Safe Ride about how they can have less emissions, talking to the members of freshman class council who are new adults, they're freshmen living on their own for the first time, about the small steps they can take in their day-to-day life to be more sustainable. I think there's a lot of opportunities that could come about with just the brainstorming of the directors, talking together, seeing how sustainability is overlapping with the subject area of the other programs, and I think that's something that could happen really naturally and would be really beneficial.
Thank you. And our next question.
Okay, so this is for both of you again. So statistically, we know that LGBTQ folks, but also all marginalized identities, are disproportionately affected by poverty, by food insecurity, by things of that nature. So how would you work to make ASUA, especially directors' positions, more financially accessible for those who are applying to directorships and programs and services?
And Kate will go first.
Sorry, I'm not sure if I totally understand your question.
Yeah, I can rephrase it a bit if that would be helpful, or give some context. So currently, we're looking at possible directors for the future in Pride Alliance, and a huge issue is the majority of our leaders in Pride Alliance have other jobs that are supplementing their income. They don't have income from many places, and so they genuinely don't even know if they would be able to apply for these directorships, just because it is a stipend position. So I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, on financial accessibility of ASUA in general, but specifically programs and services.
Yeah, thank you so much for that question. I think that's a really important one. And I think when it comes to that, I think it's important to recognize that directors are people and students first. So it makes sense that they would have other obligations. It makes sense that they need jobs to pay for college. College is expensive. Life is expensive. And I think not penalizing them if, you know, they have to miss something because they're working. And I think that's something we could be a lot more understanding of as a branch. We could be a lot more supportive of directors if this is an issue that affects them.
Thank you. And Sean.
Cool. So one thing I was looking at budget-wise, definitely, you know, you can't always just say this. The budget is probably one of the hardest things that you have to analyze at the beginning of the year. But if I were elected AVP, one thing that I do want to do is remove my own position to allow more funding. And yes, it's only $1,000. That's my stipend currently. But, you know, that does allow more time to allocate more money. And, you know, honestly, I've had this discussion with Brie, the current chief of staff, you know, this can be done by one person. There doesn't have to be two of us. So definitely looking at where the money's going in ASUA, where we can put it somewhere else. You know, my position is definitely one of those. Not saying that I don't do anything. Don't want to undermine my own position there. But, you know, it's definitely a task that can be done by one person, especially with the drive that both of us have. You know, sometimes it seems like we're looking for things to do because we're both on top of what we're doing and we get it done. So on top of that, changing the office hours requirement into a requirement of events or progress. You know, that's what we do as RAs. We don't have a time that we have to be in the dorm, but we just have to do our programs and services.
Your time's up. And then we will get into our next question. Okay. What do you think is the most major obstacle in obtaining equity on our campus, and how would you address it? And the first one is for Sean.
Cool. Again, everybody hates this answer, but you know, letting people know of what's going on. And on top of that, once you have that awareness, it's definitely one of the first steps that you need. You need to make people aware of it before you can start attacking the problem itself. But on top of that, making steps towards that, making the goals of ASUA. Again, this is one of the reasons this is one of my platforms. I keep getting to come back to this because it's so useful. Creating that strategic planning initiative is something we can make one of those monthly goals, one of those semesterly goals, focused towards equity. We can get people making how they can use their program and service at the university, and especially in the programs in the I think not only that would help challenge them to learn more about it, but honestly, if we're challenging our own people within our own branch to learn more about it, then they're gonna start to challenge others to try to do the same. So,
Thank you. And Kate?
I think when it comes to equity on our campus and in our community, the biggest roadblock is people recognize that you are part of the problem, and I think that's where the different trainings that we offer here at the U of A, I think that's where those really come in. So like I mentioned, I've been lucky enough, I was able to go to the diversity retreat put on by the Office of Inclusive Excellence, and it was over a weekend. I got to sit down with different people, different leaders on campus from different cultural centers, and it was completely eye-opening and completely changed the way that I think about equity on our campus. And so I think allowing more students the opportunities to have those experiences and really encouraging them to do that is something that could help us work towards that goal.
Thank you.
Awesome. So programs like Safe Ride and Campus Pantry might receive a lot of administrative support, but during your time as AVP, university administration might not see the value of a certain program or service. What tactics would you employ to combat, to protect the given program or service? And that's for both of you.
And Kate will go first.
Great. So as student government, our role is to really look at how we impact students and the role that we play in students' lives. And so if it were to come down to it and the administration were thinking about cutting a specific program or service, I think the most effective method of arguing against that is to look at how it impacts students, to look at what it does in students' lives and how it changes things. And so yeah, I think students are at the forefront, as they always should be. And if for whatever reason a program or service weren't benefiting students, looking at how to change that program or service so that it does actually impact students and have a positive impact in our community.
Thank you. And Sean?
Yeah, I think being the advocate for the people that you directly supervise is definitely something that you have to do. I think Lorenzo, you've done a great job this year in constantly reminding me and Brie to go to events that they're putting on. You tell us that this is coming up all the time. And I think being that type of leader that goes to their own events and sees what the people are doing allows you to see what that impact is. And you get to see the individual impacts of what they're doing, what it's like to be there. And I think that's one thing that, the advisors lack, or people that may push you to drop that program, they don't see. They don't have the time to go to all these programs. And, they don't go to all these programs. They don't go to the events. They don't go to the services they put on. So if you're that advocate, you're going to these, you can tell them this is happening, this is what they do, this is what they're actually impacting. One, you're that advocate that they're going to listen to that is advocating for that program. You're keeping it there. You're the man on the front lines that's keeping them there, or woman, man or woman, it doesn't matter. But, you're definitely advocating for what they're doing specifically, and you see that the most.
Thank you.
Alrighty. As AVP, you'll be working with 25 directors that will all need your help with programs and events. How will you manage your time to accommodate each director and ensure their programs and goals are completed successfully?
Sean will go first.
That's like a time management question. Basically, literally, one thing I've seen work that I actually learned from Tatum first is basically just using your calendar, using your time wisely. Basically, don't overschedule yourself. You have to find time to make this job your job. But definitely organization. You got to learn the ropes. That's definitely one thing that I think having experience in this position does. I've seen what it looks like to have to schedule those one-on-ones, have to be at the directors' councils, what it takes to plan those directors' councils. I've been a big part of that. So I think just looking at what you have and knowing how to plan accordingly is definitely the most important thing right now. And I think that's one thing that definitely came with experience for me. But
Thank you. And Kate?
Yeah, so I think this really does boil down to organization. balancing a lot of people with a lot of different goals, and I think that scheduling is a big part of that. I'm a big fan of, I keep a meticulously kept calendar. I think I could really bring that skill into the administrative position. And so, yeah, scheduling that time to sit down with each director, but also goal scheduling. So know you have a big goal, but then you have smaller goals that are part of that big goal. And know by what date you want each piece of your goal to be accomplished, and then that helps it to be a lot more manageable at the end of the day. So yeah, really at the end of the day, this is about organization, and I think as a senator, as a student, as just a person, this is something that I've definitely come around with, and I think this is one of my strong suits.
Thank you.
Okay, my first question is for Sean. Specifically on your Res Life initiative, how will you ensure that basically inclusion is really, really implemented into that so that all freshmen or anyone living in the dorms feel comfortable actually getting involved with ASUA?
Cool. I think showing, that position is definitely, that's the goal. That's why, that's one of my platforms right now. I think we're lacking that opportunity right now in ASUA. That's why I created it. So I think giving them that position as someone who's involved in both Res Life and opportunity to come talk to someone who's comfortable in both. I think that's definitely something they lack. That's something I'm pushing for right now. I want to get an ASUA presentation in our residents, everybody in Res Life can't come and talk to their RAs about those programs because they don't know about them. A lot of RAs don't promote the programs that we have, but I've had that opportunity to do so as my role as an RA because I know about them, because I've been working for them. So I think just getting that knowledgeable person that's on both sides and playing both fields can definitely make the impact and make people comfortable approaching them and definitely making themselves available. And all we need is the flyering and making residents aware of that, and residents are always looking for a resource like that, so.
Thank you.
And then, Kate, as far as your diversity and hiring initiative, what kind of tactics are you going to take when you reach out to these cultural centers or multicultural Greek life to really kind of bridge that gap where it actually feels like a difference in making sure that people actually want to make that change, I guess?
Great, thank you. So one thing I think is really just personal, reaching out to them personally, and I don't want to do that like over email. Well, I want to set up a meeting with them, because you can send out an email, you can throw it on a listserv, but how many people is that going to reach? How many people are going to read that, and how many people are going to take action? It's about really putting a face to ASUA and making it not some just amorphous organization that goes on the other side of campus that you're not involved with and that you don't think you could be involved with. It's really showing what these positions do, and I also think the recent initiative to get the directorships on Handshake is really helpful because you don't have to just you don't just have access to this form that you send to people. People can find it on their own. But really just being encouraging to people to apply for these. Let them know that just because they've never been involved in ASUA before doesn't mean they don't have skills and they don't have perspectives that would be valuable to the programs and services.
Thank you, Sean.
Can you ask a question? Oh, yeah, okay.
So my first question is for Sean. You mentioned working closely with the student unions to promote awareness of food insecurity. Do you have any additional plans to advocate for healthier food at lower cost within the student unions?
I think that's definitely can be made part of the conversation. It definitely wasn't in the initial idea. One thing I don't want to do is try to force too many ideas on them at once, because that's definitely just gonna, it doesn't work out. We've seen that before. So yes, would that be in the plan eventually? Is that along with the initial idea at the time? No, because that's what we're trying to get. We're trying to get campus pantry supported first. But I do think that's an important conversation to have, and I think there are efforts being made, like the rooftop garden and things like that, that are steps that they're taking towards that. But I think it is a future conversation that I'm definitely interested in having myself. I try to kind of watch what I eat, and there's not a lot of options for that in the student unions, and that goes for people like with allergies and things like that. You need to advocate for that as well when you're trying to have that exact conversation. So,
Thank you.
And then Kate, you mentioned how you're going to build relationships with underrepresented groups on campus, such as cultural centers. How do you plan to keep the connections with them for years to come?
Yeah, great question. So I think a lot of this is making that making the first interaction positive, making people feel welcome, and then building relationships with not just the leaders of the organization, but say the freshmen, say people that are going to be involved in the future, and letting them know that they're welcome in ASUA, letting them know their ideas should be heard, letting them know that they should apply for things. And so it starts there, but also hopefully people will start to pass down that knowledge. Someone's involved, they pass it down to their friend. They tell them to get involved. And I really think that it could just create a network around campus of different people getting involved, not just this year, but for all of the years to come.
Thank you.
Okay, so for both of you, how would you describe to a colleague what Pride Alliance does and why you are proud of our work?
And first we'll go Kate.
Awesome. So, words builds a community for our LGBTQ plus students here on campus. It helps encourage them to stay involved. It helps encourage them to stay in school, as we know that there are so many more issues when it comes to schooling that face LGBTQ students than would face other people. They do amazing programming, such as like Second Chance Prom, which is so incredible. They have open discussions about different issues that do affect the LGBTQ plus community and how to overcome those as a college student. And the work they do is incredibly vital to ASUA, but also to just the university at whole. Thank you. Thank you,
and Sean.
Awesome. So I think a lot of the things that you guys do is mostly like, you know, you're advocating for everybody that is part of the LGBTQ community. And I know that one thing that I've heard from, you know, people that have come to Pride Alliance are, you know, they're supporting that, you know, you guys are creating a home. You know, one thing, you guys are creating a community for them to be involved in on campus. And I think that's the most important thing that we have right now. You give them events to go to, you know, you give them a place to go, a place to feel comfortable with, people that they can be comfortable around. And I think that's one of the best things that I've heard from you guys. Definitely one thing that it's impacting is retention. I think that's a big idea, and something that we need to recognize. You know, you guys do have a large impact on the LGBTQ community on campus, and I think without a program like that, it'd be hard for students to come and live on their own and you know, not have a source of support like that. So I think that's probably the most impactful thing that I've seen. So.
Thank you. And our last question will be asked by our Administrative Vice President.
Awesome. So Sean, specifically surrounding your platform, given that RHA invites a senator to sit on their campus-wide committee, how do you envision your mentioned reestablished relationship with RHA being facilitated?
Again, I think if so I haven't been largely involved in Senate. I didn't know they had. I've seen them in there. I didn't know they were a permanent seat in there. So that's something that is kind of new to me. But obviously, it's not making the impact that we want if we don't have the same involvement that we need from Res Life. You know, RAs don't know about programs and services. You know, I've advocated for that all year as an RA. You know, people come to me with these problems. I'm like, you can use this, and you know, that's lacking a lot. And I think that's one thing that we can utilize with that. Definitely, I don't think it's very aware that we are involved with a senator in RHA either, because I went and talked to the director of Res Ed in Res Life, and I went and talked to the hiring manager who's interested in creating this position. She's the assistant director over there, and they are both, you know, huge advocates for this position. They want to see it. They've seen it precedented at other schools, and you know, I think this is much bigger than just a senator sitting on RHA. It's more advocacy in both sides. So,
thank you.
All right, awesome. And Kate, conflict between directors, although infrequent, will arise throughout your term. Can you talk about your methodology with managing these conflicts when they arise?
Great. So I think when it comes to conflict between people in general, it's important to let each person tell their story. Let people feel like, obviously, each person feels as if their interests or their values aren't being met. And it's important to see what each person feels about that, what the basis of that conflict is, and then communicate a way to fix that. There's always a baseline misunderstanding. There's always a baseline of something that can be fixed. And so just to make people feel that they are heard, and to never blame anyone or judge anyone or be in any way make anyone feel uncomfortable while trying to mitigate that is an important skill to have.
All right, thank you. Let's give a round of applause to our candidates. Cool. So this will conclude our AVP AVP debate. I'd like to thank everyone who came. I'd thank all the directors who took the time to come here. Spring Fling's very busy, and our Pride Alliance are trying to work on programs and Students for Sustainability as well. So let's give them a round of applause. And then I'd like to thank Brie and then Lorenzo both for taking the time here. They're overseeing these guys over here, so the fact that they took the time here to come and ask questions, very good questions, everybody, I think that deserves another round of applause. So I'd like to thank everybody, and just to remind that our presidential debate is on Sunday, February 25th from 5 to 7 p.m. in the Gallagher Theater. We picked a very large venue to make the house packed, to make sure that all our students are aware of the next future leaders. And then don't forget that our general election is the Tuesday and Wednesday of next week. So thank you all for coming. Have a great night. Drive home safe. And Lorenzo would like to say something.
Yeah, one more round of applause for the Elections Commission, the Daily Wildcat, and whatever student media is here as well.
Thank you.